If you know me, then you know by now that I love the chainsword. Not in a CO1 kind of way, more in a I feel a void in my democratic soul without it kind of way. But, thanks to some, let's say, challenges, I found myself sadly swapping to other weapons more regularly. The name's Private Spruckus, and today we're going to be addressing three things. High Command's recent chainsword enhancements, my take on said enhancements, and then finally some new loadout options with consideration to the chainsword modifications. With that in mind, I was absolutely gobsmacked to take a look at High Command's recent patch notes and see what treasures lay within. Beautiful, mechanical chainsword changes, not just simple damage tweaks. The majority of my gripes addressed in one fell swoop. Did High Command actually listen to us chainsword divers? Maybe, but who cares? If it's fixed, then we can rip and tear even better than before, regardless of why. If you haven't yet had the pleasure of stumbling across one of my illustrious broadcasts, let me make something very clear up front. The pleasure is all mine, and I thank you for tuning in. Grab yourself a cup of liberty, take a seat, and relax. Well, at least until you hear your next mission alert. Let's dive in. I gotta say, feels good to have this thing back in my hands, especially now. Our other weapons do plenty of work on their own. Just a different kind of less serrated, less hands-on work. And Private Spruckus needs his serrated hands-on work. I've missed you, sweetheart. Sorry about that. So anyway, some months ago, High Command decided that the Defoliation Tool, and all melee weapons for that matter, needed a little better quality control on the assembly lines. Means that now, our melee weapons deliver 50% more freedom than before, without any armor requirements. This opens up our loadout diversity tremendously. Now, you don't have to take an armor with peak physique or rocksteady to dish out the carnage, but consequently, those two passives took a reduction, down from 100% bonus to only 40%. Don't be fooled though, this is still an improvement. Math is hard, but don't worry, Private Spruckus has you covered. Since the base damage is up 50%, an increase of 40% on top of that puts you at a total increase of 110%, meaning 10% higher than your previous melee armor bonus of just 100%. Here's the TLDR. Without a melee passive, you're up 50% damage over previous. With the melee passive, you're up 10% over previous. All around, those gearheads and R&D really did a good job making this beauty boy even harder. If you're a chainsaw enthusiast such as myself, then you know that the thing's damage really wasn't the issue. Sure, it helps, and I certainly won't say no to the thing getting its teeth sharpened, but its actual issues were a bit more fundamental. Great news then that the recent updates addressed those fundamentals, and I'd say did so very well. Now, let's go over all the fixes and how each of them addresses the chainsword's issues directly. Increase the move damage hitbox to make it easier to hit the enemy. Check. The dive swing technique isn't nearly as necessary, and the thing feels great to swing into every enemy. No more being too far away to hit a flesh mob with its wonky hitbox. Longer window for when damage hitbox is active. Check. It's a bit hard to put into words, but its swing feels better. Your swings can hit targets at the end of an attack that previously the saw would touch but not damage. Armor penetration increases twice as fast. Check. A noticeable increase in armor pen ramp up. This also means that the stun hits much faster on armored targets like a Hulk or a Charger. Makes it pretty simple to take them down now. Move slower when it does damage to an enemy. What High Command means here is that the chainsword moves slower upon contact, not that the diver moves more slowly. That being the case, this is a double check. Two checks because this mostly removes the need for that aim drag technique entirely. Sure, it worked, but it was a gimmick that I would much rather not have to use. Got a feeling that this is the closest to a hold the saw out in front of you as we're going to get, and relatively, it feels great. Decrease stamina cost from 10% to 5%. Check. I'll take it, why not? Less stamina means more swings, more dives, and more sprinting. All in all, I'd say that the chainsaw is now in a great place for a melee weapon. I know that melee isn't everyone's cup of tea, and that's perfectly fine. But if you ever wanted to give it a try, there's no better time than now. Probably up there with the boom hammer, if not better. With all this in mind, how can you make even better use of the chainsaw, you might ask? Well, now that we don't need a melee buff from our armor to make this thing feel good, the armory doors have opened up a bunch of loadouts for us to pick from. One piece of general loadout advice before we get into specific builds. I no longer think heavy armor is the end-all. The saw, and all of its intricacies, seem to work faster and better now. And with that in mind, we don't need to stand in one place as long as we did before. More ability to be mobile means less need to take an extra hit or two. Heavy still has its place, and is favored by some builds over others. Oh yeah, and stay to the end for a few new chainsaw techniques as well. The Drake. You bring the bite, the Flame Dog brings the breath. Fire grenades, flame turret, napalm. If it sets things on fire, put it in the loadout. Best served in inflammable armor so you don't cook yourself while you're out hunting for prey. If you're not leaving a trail of cinders across the map like a limited-fueled dragon, you're doing it wrong. The Spectre. Stealth armor and a warp pack, so if our enemies do see you, they won't be long. When you want in quick, when the room gets too crowded, or when you're just tired of walls in your way, the warp pack lets you pick your own entry and exit points. You're in quiet, you're out quick. By the time they realize you're there, you're already meters away. They can't kill what they can't see, so don't give them the chance. The Wall. To be clear, I'm not telling you, go buy super credits with this one. It's just become one of my favorite builds against bugs, even considering the new and improved Spore Burst. So I wanted to mention it. That newish knight-looking bulwark armor from the Superstore paired with the Shield Gen backpack isn't a Terminid-specific loadout, but it lets you get up in the thick of bugs without a care in the world. Proper chainsaw technique is still required, of course, but you're not moving. At least not over your dead body. If they want you to budge, they're gonna have to file a formal request with the Department of Kinetic Energy. Good news then, that said department doesn't even exist. And if it did, then those bugs aren't smart enough to navigate our wonderful bureaucracy to even file a report. Until then, you're the anvil, and the chainsword is the hammer. Well, it's a chainsword and not a hammer, but whatever, you know what I mean. The stink. Become one with the gas. Gas armor, gas dog, gas mines, gas strike, and gas grenades. Your choice to sub out mines or strike for the gas mortar. Really though, I just wanted an excuse to say gas as much as I could. If you're wearing the heavy armor and taking Vitality Booster, you're also completely immune to whatever it is the gas is really made of. Unbothered, moisturized, happy, in my lane, focused, flourishing. You can stand right in the middle of that thick green fog, all while watching the light fade from our enemy's eyes. Even better is that thanks to the gas, they'll be too confused to fight back when you dig in with the chainsword. The stink is not just a loadout, it's a lifestyle. The Conduit. Arc armor, lightning dog, and arc grenades too. Stay close to your Teslas, however, let the current do the heavy lifting while you handle the leftovers. It's high voltage freedom, plain and simple. There's a very strong chance that your squad may hate you, at least if you don't keep a leash on your dog. Remember though, you can recall your guard dog with your equipment toggle, but when you do decide to care about your squad's well-being, try not to think about the smell of ozone and burnt bug hairs. It stays in the suit for weeks, and the laundry machines on the destroyer aren't great at getting into that kind of stink out. Gotta go fast. Didn't ever catch your name for this one, so my apologies there. Oxygenator and warp pack. No need to be sneaky here, our only concern is speed. I prefer the medium armor for at least a bit of durability, but the heavy variant is a no-go. We want to be from point A to Z as quickly as possible, all while tearing through whatever's in our way using the chainsword. To wrap it all up, let's go over some techniques that we can use to our advantage, thanks to the new changes. Heavy cover. This isn't you taking cover, it's using your stunned heavy enemies as cover to keep yourself out of harm's way. They block the attacks coming for you and take the hits themselves. Mainly useful against bots, but charges can block other charges as well as bile spew too. The backstep bait. Walk up to a Hulk, Charger, or any other enemy with a melee attack. Close enough to get them to swing, but just far enough for you to move out of the way and back in. Doable before, but now with the increased wrap-up speed for armor pen and therefore stun, there's virtually no risk. This technique applies to nearly any melee enemy aside from flesh mobs, as they're just jerks that need to be directed to charge into a wall to be stunned first. Swing rotation. Now, when our saw makes contact, the blade sticks in place pretty well. With that in mind, we can rotate ourselves to keep hitting our original target, all while new targets graciously walk right into the teeth. But you handle things like hordes of voteless effortlessly. With all that in mind, I've got some new techniques that I need to refine, and you've got a chainsaw that needs to eat. Subscribe for future broadcasts and I'll see you down on the surface, diver. Private Sprockers, out.